God damn it, I'm muted. Hello everyone, floating between Earth and space. It's time for the Galactic Spacecast. Prepare yourselves. Don't forget to buckle up those seatbelts. Alright, I was muted. That's my bad. That's my bad. I'm a little thrown off by the fact that everything just went to shit today. For no good reason, aside from making me an hour late on the stream. That's good. That's what I was planning. I did that on purpose, actually. That was totally on purpose. I was like, you know what? I'd prefer to spend an hour just doing nothing rather than the stream. Okay, that's a lie. Great to see you all. Quick shout outs and then we'll get right to it. Mozart, HBX, The Lucky Minute, So Life, Series, Noep, George Waters, Pangea, Blue Tomato, Pitchforks Dragon, EDC, BCat, Atticus Among Us, Michael Reich, Dude Knight. And I think that might be everybody. The Lucky Minute? I don't know. I'm lost. I'm thrown off right now. I'm thrown off. Let's say that much. Now, like I mentioned, we got a hell of a lot to talk about here tonight, Space Fams, the week-ending report, and boy oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. Number of things in U.S. news, Epstein files, tariff war back on, Texas redistricting fight spreads to the entire country. AI discussions we'll get into, a whole bunch of environmental news as the entire world is on fire or underwater, as usual in this crazy times that we're living in. Gaza to become a Israeli territory, and much more to talk about. But let's start in the United States. A place where we spend a great deal of time talking about. Let's start off with the story that has really captivated people's attentions over the last few weeks, almost a month now, I think. That's right. People can't stop talking about it. The Epstein files.
Illegal.
Oh, many of you thought Trump was just being weird for some weird reason. It turns out Ghislaine Maxwell, who is definitely a trustworthy individual, by the way. Yeah, who could have seen this coming, guys? Who could have seen this coming? I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Why don't you believe women, you misogynist? Yep, that's right. That's me. Ghislaine, 2 counts of perjury. Maxwell doing what she loves to do, aside from sex trafficking minors and you know, pedophilic acts, which is perjuring herself. There it is. Nothing to see here, everybody. No one even wants to see the files anymore because it's like totally exonerated. Yeah, I said, Lamau, oh, I guess this was all just a big misunderstanding. Yeah, the person who lied in order to rape kids is definitely telling the truth about the president who likes to rape kids. Yeah. No, don't say that. No, totally exonerated, guys. You don't understand.
Don't do it.
Sex trafficker of minors said Trump is innocent, totally. In exchange for lenient sentencing, by the way. Like what are we doing? Of course it was going to go here. I've been saying that it was going to go here from the start, and now.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's been a long time. I mean, we've only been talking about this for a month, but I'm pretty sure I've said pretty similar shit. Like, this seems like a real hotbed for some corruption to happen real quick, and for Donald Trump to somehow negotiate a deal where perhaps his name is exonerated by old Ghislaine.
There! Was she actually exonerated? No, I'm joking, but that's where we're heading towards. Lenient sentencing in exchange for total exoneration of Donald Trump. They literally shut off all the avenues of investigation, all of the previous investigations that have been conducted into this matter, and the only thing that we have now is the word of the sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell.
Illegal.
And how did we get this information? Oh, that's right. Donald Trump's lawyer, who now happens to be the deputy attorney general, went and had a private meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. What are we doing? What are we doing? Are you kidding me? This is insanity. It's total, utter madness. What the hell?
Latest on the Jeffrey Epstein case. We are learning more about Epstein associate Ghislaine.
Not to mention the FBI literally said they've redacted his name in thousands of instances in the documents. Okay, the FBI literally was like, dude, we ran out of Sharpie. Okay, we ran out of Sharpie when we were redacting Donald Trump's name. I wonder how we got here. How did this happen? Going after a woman and a Jew? I expect no less from you, Hassan. That's me. I'm being a misogynistic anti-Semite.
How dare you,
CBS
Hassan?
News has learned Ghislaine Maxwell said
it.
nothing during her 9-hour meeting with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche in July.
Yeah. Todd Blanche. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, also known as Trump's literal lawyer, Todd Blanche. It's so funny that for years, Donald Trump and the Republicans kept talking about how the DOJ is so not impartial. The Department of Justice is totally working at the behest of Biden, totally working at the behest of the Democrats. Oh, such
With zero proof, I would like to point out. I mean, they claimed that Merrick Garland was working on behalf of Joe Biden, but had effectively no proof of that. But, who needs proof?
I don't want reality.
There are prosecutions taking place, and then literally came in and was like, I'm making my lawyers, my own personal lawyers, my attorney general and deputy attorney general, and they're going to do whatever the they want. We are going after anyone and everyone that I do not like, and we're doing it openly. I can't believe your lack of charitability towards this new administration. Yeah. You know what, actually? The situation is so... This chatter is obviously being sarcastic, but the situation...
Seriously, Hassan. Misogyny, anti-Semitism, and also being too charitable? My God.
Illegal.
So this is not even an actual line of defense. At least in Trump 1, people will be like, oh, you hate Trump? Why? Because you want the country to fail? They're not even doing that anymore. This is so unimaginably indefensible. It's so transparently corrupt that even like the biggest dick riders of the admin can't even come up with like a reasonable way to dance around this issue. Okay? I'm sure they'll get their talking points eventually. They'll get their ducks in a row and they'll start blasting it over and over again. But for the time being, there's just not anything that you can do. There is nothing defensible about this, okay? This is complete indefensible behavior.
According to a source familiar with the exchange, she told the number 2 at the Justice Department that Trump, once a friend of the late child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, did nothing in her presence that would implicate him.
Oh, thank God.
Revelation comes as sources say top administration officials are discussing.
Guys, you don't understand. You don't understand. Totally innocent.
Thank God Ghislaine Maxwell is here to tell us that actually Donald Trump is a great guy. Never seen him do anything wrong. And then we should absolutely not question that at all and take that at face value. No questions. No further questions. Thank you very much.
Exoneration. Total exoneration. I love that they're posting this. I love that their statement comes along with this photo, though, which kind of makes the situation a little ridiculous, huh? Here is Donald Trump in 750 different photos with Ghislaine Maxwell. As Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony indicates, all of the times that Trump was around Ghislaine Maxwell, which was so numerous, so vast, he didn't do anything criminal ever. Nothing illegal whatsoever. Actually, Ghislaine Maxwell also apparently... Ghislaine Maxwell needs to throw more ridiculous shit in there. You know what? F it. Just go all the way. Just be like, Trump actually was literally actively fighting pedophilia in my presence. He was saving orphans from a burning building. You're already doing it. You're already saying whatever the admin wants you to say, so you get lenient sentencing in exchange for playing ball. Might as well just make it up even further. Yeah, say you saw Obama at the pedo parties. Obama was there. You literally predicted this exact thing for the past 2 weeks nonstop. Yeah.
I hear Obama and the Central Park Five were at Epstein's Island doing nasty, nasty things with Hillary Clinton and George Soros.
I mean, it was getting there, and I told you we were getting there, and some of you didn't want to believe it. Some of you thought it was too far-fetched that Donald Trump would actually give a pardon to Ghislaine Maxwell in exchange for her lying about him. The only thing we can hope for here is the consistent incompetence of this administration. Okay? You've been with...
Okay, I just figured we'd start off today with Hassan's take on the latest developments in the Jeffrey Epstein, the Epstein files, Epstein Files Gate? I don't know what to call it anymore. I feel like it's mutated into something of a new iteration. You know, it's like the sequel. Because we've been talking about this thing forever. I mean, it's been like a decade. But yeah, it does seem weird. We talked about this. Ghislaine Maxwell getting a sweet deal within 1 week of just having a nice 2-day rap sesh with Donald Trump's lawyer, now turned Deputy Attorney General. Suddenly she's 1 week later, she's in a minimum security Club Med type prison. It's all very convenient. It does feel like they're ramping up towards something. It really does. Alright, I'm going to start the chat goal early tonight. I know I would normally start it like an hour into the stream, and I apologize for everybody who is like, what about the free hour? It's like, dude, I get it. I feel you. I hear you. I see what you're saying. You are valid, but we spent the free hour trying to make the stream work.
Come on!
I mean, it's probably my fault, but I just don't want to start the goal too late. Okay, content goal has started in the chat. Give us all of the content immediately, if not sooner.
Immediately, if not sooner.
As always, I will accept Cash App and PayPal donations towards the goal, not just super chats and YouTube either. The super stickers and memberships will also count towards the goal. A lot of great ways to contribute. A lot of great ways. Okay, alright. Was there another part of this that I wanted? I can't remember. Alright, let's move on. Let's move on from Hassan. Keep talking about Epstein and go to CNN. Caitlin Collins interviewed one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims to discuss the vibes right now. You know, the vibes that it feels like maybe Ghislaine Maxwell is going to get a fucking pardon.
CNN has now learned that a meeting between the Attorney General Pam Bondi, the FBI Director Kash Patel, the Vice President J.D. Vance, and others did happen last night at the White House, with a source telling CNN that they discussed a number of topics, including the Jeffrey Epstein case and the administration's next steps on that matter. As we've sought to emphasize here, a group that feels like they are missing from the administration's conversations are the survivors of the abuse by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Tonight, my source is a survivor, Annie Farmer. Maxwell recruited her and groomed her when she was just 16 years old. Annie testified at Maxwell's 2021 trial that both Maxwell and Epstein had abused her. And Annie joins me now, along with her attorney, Jennifer Freeman, is back with us. And I'm very grateful to have both of you here tonight, because Annie, I do think this is something that is missing from a lot of the conversation about subpoenas or witnesses or Congress. And, you know, just for everyone to remember, you testified at Maxwell's trial. You were actually the only survivor to do so by your full name. Others did so by pseudonyms, understandably. And I just, you know, one, I want to say thank you for being willing to come back and talk about it. But secondly, I wonder what you want people to know who are at home, who are watching all of this play out with Ghislaine Maxwell tonight?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much for having me here and also for the coverage you've been doing centering survivors, because I agree that that's something that hasn't been done nearly enough in these last few weeks. I think that, one thing I think it's important people understand is that this chaotic process that's been unfolding has a real cost for survivors. A central part of trauma is a feeling of a lack of control, and that has certainly been triggered here, and I think has a lot of us feeling, very uneasy, really exhausted by this process. And we are learning things just like everybody else, mostly, through the news, through text from friends. We have not been given any kind of a heads up about things that are happening that are directly related to us. These meetings, even this prison transfer was something I expected we would learn about prior to learning about it in the news, and unfortunately that's not how it has unfolded.
Yeah.
It's almost like
is being moved.
It's almost like the Trump administration doesn't give a shit about the victims. It's like, yeah, good call. Don't tell the victims that you're moving the only surviving perpetrator of this horrifying crimes to a minimum security prison, something that usually doesn't happen with sex offenders. Just gonna point that out.
Illegal.
Yeah, no reason to clue them in, so they can just find out on the news, just like everybody else.
Yeah, when you find out that Ghislaine Maxwell is being moved, which we really haven't been told why or who signed off on that, from this prison in Florida to a lower security federal camp in Texas, I wonder what goes through your mind when you hear that.
Honestly, just even learning that the DOJ would be meeting with her was extremely disturbing. This is someone who has been convicted of sex trafficking, by a jury.
Illegal.
She not only procured girls and young women for Epstein, but she also participated in the abuse of minors. And, to hear that they are meeting with her and considering involving her in the investigation after she has been, been a perjurer, it was very confusing and disturbing. And so, the rumors that followed about a possible commutation or pardon, very upsetting. And then with this prison transfer, I think it again feels like she is getting preferential treatment. That sounds like something that's unprecedented, and it's really worrying to us about what might be coming next.
Well, one of the things she was accused of lying about involved you, and at trial, just so everyone remembers, your mom actually testified that when you went to the ranch in New Mexico in 1996, that Jeffrey Epstein had promised your mom you were going on a retreat and that there were dozens of other girls who were going to be there, that Ghislaine Maxwell was his wife, and then you got there and you were the only one. I believe that's what your mom testified at trial. And so I just think maybe that is part of this, that we've heard some people describing Ghislaine Maxwell, I should know people who are on the far right describing Ghislaine Maxwell as the victim here.
Yeah, I have seen that as well. I think this attempt to sort of rehab her image in order to potentially, make some sort of commutation more palatable. But I've actually felt, really appreciative of the public's response to that. It feels like that campaign is not working. People recognize that she's a predator, not a victim. And I think that any additional lessening of sentence or negotiation will really be met with a lot of outrage and seen as a sign of some guilt.
If the president's not ruling it out, a pardon, and he just emphasizes that he has the ability to do so, I wonder what you would want to say to him about even considering that.
Yeah, I just would want him to know it would be devastating for the victims of Epstein and Maxwell. This was the one person who was held accountable for these crimes, and she was held accountable for her crimes, not for someone else's, but for the ones that she committed. And I think there's many other ways for him to move forward with this that would actually be indicative of him not being involved, that would not involve her, right? Releasing more information as people are clamoring for. I think anything that involves her participation would be seen as a sign of guilt.
Yeah, not shocking that this woman, a former victim of Ghislaine Maxwell, is somewhat upset and confused by the Trump administration's wheelings and dealings with Ghislaine Maxwell in what appears to be some sort of quid pro quo going on in the making here. It's all very disturbing. And on top of that, of course, Ghislaine Maxwell has perjured herself multiple times on the witness stand and in other contexts. Not a reliable witness, but it seems like the right wing is trying to launder her into someone reliable, into the victim, in fact, rather than the perpetrator. So that, I mean, let's be real, so that they can somehow convince themselves that Donald Trump isn't involved in any of this. That's really what it's about. It's like, how do we spin it so that Donald Trump is still the savior of the QAnon types? I know, we'll just rewrite history and we'll completely change the framing of everything we've been talking about, and that'll solve it.
I don't want reality.
All right. Now, let's move on from the Epstein files. I don't want to spend too much time on this one today. This one crossed my path earlier today. Let's go to the I've Had It podcast, which is, you know, that sort of what do you call it? Like that sort of liberal-ish sort of wine mom. I don't know what to call this podcast, and I actually don't know this woman's name, but she had an interesting take on masculinity in the Trumposphere, on and the quantification of manhood in the right-wing space.
Stupidity is inherently hilarious because that's how dumb you are. But then Charlie Kirk gets even dumber, you guys. And this is where the cover-up is coming in, where the winosphere has to cover up for the fact that there is a lot of homoeroticism in the MAGA movement. A lot of gay-coded stuff going on in the MAGA movement. Play this clip.
A lot that you can call Donald Trump. No one has ever called him feminine. And Trump is the big F-U to the feminist establishment that has not been challenged my entire life.
Well, a gay influencer on Instagram that goes by the Instagram name Branhattan, and his name is Branson Gates, says, Charlie Kirk, hold my beer, and let's just watch together all the gay-coded shit that McCankle's Taco Tits says on a daily basis. Play the clip.
I'll kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. Not with a lot of enjoyment, Jesus. But that's okay.
I mean, I don't
Look
know
at that
about
guy.
you guys,
very handsome,
but
very handsome, nice guy. Looks like he's got some nice lips for kissing.
I don't think that's the masculine manosphere alpha male. We're full of testosterone stuff that Charlie Kirk thinks it is. Let's play the next clip.
But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when He took showers with the other pros. They came out of there. They said, "Oh my God."
He looks good. He looks good. He looks good. And he looks hard.
He looks good and he looks hard.
He looks good. And he looks hard.
That's unbelievable. I had to say it. I had to say it.
Okay, I mean, you guys, it's just fascinating to me, the MAGA movement, the winosphere. It's fascinating to me that Donald Trump is so unattracted, yet they're so attracted to him. But they have a visual problem. They have an optics problem with the gut, the cankles, the makeup line, 85 million years old. So they Photoshop him, I guess, so he's more masturbatable. And so they Photoshop all this homoerotic stuff of Trump with these pectoral muscles, when in real life he needs a bra. He has man boobs. So does Don Jr. for that matter, but that's another episode entirely. So they do all this gay-coded stuff with him because they're deeply attracted to him, which brings me to all of this homoeroticism on the winosphere. It's so gay-coded. I'm around a lot of straight men. They don't have to talk about their masculinity. To me, thou doth protest too much. I mean, Charlie Kirk spends a crazy amount of time. The only other person I see that does this is that Jesse Waters on Fox News. They talk about men and masculinity nonstop. But let's watch some more gay shit that McCankle's Taco Tits has been saying. Play the clip.
Musk, do you plan to speak to him on the phone anytime soon?
I haven't really thought about it, actually. I would imagine he wants to speak to me. I would think so. If I were him, I'd want to speak to me, but maybe he's already called. You'd have to ask him whether or not he's already called. But I'd have no problem with it. Well,
the way, like, oh my God. But like, the way it seems like Donald Trump is like this, 15-year-old girl, like, who just broke up with her high school boyfriend, is like, you would think that he would want to talk to me, but I don't care. It's not a big deal.
But I'd have no problem with it. Well, I don't want to say that, but but I would imagine he'd want to talk to me.
I mean, this guy, Branson Gates, you are brilliant. I mean, it is so true. When he puts the movements with it, it totally sounds like this breakup thing. I would imagine he would want to talk to me. I mean, this is not the alpha thing that they think it is, where they're like, I don't give a shit if Elon Musk called me. He accused me of being a pedophile. That would be the normal response in this situation. But Trump can't say that because
not going to do it.
Musk
Wouldn't be prudent
has
at this
collateral
juncture.
over Trump. Trump has collateral over Elon Musk. So it's mutually assured destruction. Not to mention they're involved in this weird homoerotic manosphere / winosphere where nobody can ultimately be themselves. Everybody has to cosplay. And I personally think they are so inherently jealous of the LGBTQ plus community because these people live freely. They live who they are. They don't have to lie. They don't have to quantify their gayness. They don't have to quantify their masculinity. They don't have to quantify their femininity. This only exists in the MAGA winosphere where they have to quantify masculinity. This doesn't exist anywhere else in the world except for with these MAGA men. What is this psychologically that they have to quantify their masculinity? And then if you go to like Moses Mike Johnson, when he's not telling us about God waking him up in the middle of the night going, hey, little buddy, you're Moses. When he's not talking about that shit, and when he's not talking about doing a porn monitoring thing with his teenage son, don't be creepy. I think the reason they do that is because he's monitoring for gay porn. I mean, there is just so much gay coded shit in this. And the reason why these people get so triggered.
Now there's a take on the porn monitoring app of Mike Johnson that I haven't heard or even considered at this point. But now that she's saying it out loud, it does make some sense.
by a pride flag is because all of the people in the LGBTQIA plus community have a million times more courage than these betas over here that are trying to quantify their masculinity. There's another clip of Charlie Kirk somewhere on the internet of him talking about testosterone levels on the right versus on the left. And I want to remind you, Charlie Kirk, Mr. Big Guy Testosterone, went to New York City and then put on the internet how unsafe he felt. Now, I'm no MAGA man full of testosterone. I go to New York City all the time. Charlie, I ride the subway. I've never felt unsafe, not one fucking time. You pussy. All right, a couple more clips here from Branhattan.
Look at the muscles of this guy.
She just is obliterating Charlie Kirk over here. Charlie Kirk, you pussy.
Close it up just like my wife's vagina.
A couple more clips here from Branhattan.
Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Look at that guy. You in the beautiful white shirt. Would you look at this guy? Holy mackerel. I'm looking at him. I always wanted to look like that. I just didn't want to do the work. You look good. Don't let anyone stop you. You look good.
I mean, you guys, you have to admit, it's interesting. And I just want to remind you.
I don't know where that guy came from, but killing it with the gay Trump impressions. They're amazing. Look at that guy. Look at the muscles on that one. What a handsome, handsome man.
He looks good, and he looks hard.
Okay. Let's stay on the topic of mighty men of valor and their performative masculinity. Let's go to the White House. This is from yesterday.
Last year, after an assassin tried to take my life in Butler, Pennsylvania, Thomas generously mailed me one of his Purple Hearts. Many of the other veterans showed me the same unbelievable gesture of kindness, including three-time Purple Heart recipient John Ford and Gerald Enter Jr., who also came along with us and did us a great, great favor. Gerald, John, and Thomas, I want to thank you very much. What a great honor to get those Purple Hearts. I guess in a certain way it wasn't that easy for me either when you think of it, but you went through a lot more than I did, and I appreciate it all.
Actually, it wasn't that. I mean, I know that some of you fought in wars and, had guns pointed at you constantly, but actually, I did a lot too. I was really tough. My ear, it's barely healed right now. Yeah, barely healed. I'm a mighty man of valor too. Great mighty man. There you go. Donald Trump at the White House talking about, in a way, talking about how he deserves the Purple Heart. Which is fucking ridiculous.
This is ridiculous.
Stolen valor? Anybody? Come on. Donald Trump couldn't help himself. To be able to pretend to be some sort of soldier, even though he completely circumvented his duty with the bone spur bullshit. No, I can't. Oh, my legs, my little legs. I can't go to war. Oh. My delicate, delicate legs. Where are the Republicans with the stolen valor stuff? They used to love claiming that people were stealing valor all the time, and now they're just silent. All right. Let's go here to talk about how Republicans are doing, broadly speaking. We got some new poll numbers for you people, and guess what? They are
awful, awful, awful. Weak.
Harry Enton over at CNN from 11 hours ago. A big uh-oh for Republicans.
Recent polls have shown that Democrats are facing an uphill battle ahead of the midterms, but some new numbers are offering maybe something of a different picture. And that is what Harry Enton is back and digging into. Potentially signs of a turnaround, perhaps, Harry. What are you seeing on the generic ballot?
Okay, so, we're talking about warning signs for the Republican Party, and I will just say, uh-oh, for them. That is the phrase of the day, uh-oh. Democrats lead in the generic congressional ballot, and you can see their lead is expanding. It's becoming bigger. Look at this in spring. CNBC, it was 2. Now it's 5. How about Ipsos? It was 1 for the Democrats. Now it's 4. How about the Wall Street Journal? It was 1, and now it is 3. So now the average lead here is 4, which is up from just about a point. That's about a 3-point move on average in the Democrats' direction. And of course, Kate Paul, when this is coming amidst the fights over redistricting, I think there are going to be a lot of people wondering, wait a minute, are Republicans wanting to change the lines because they are losing, which they absolutely are on.
Good question. Good question, Harry. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff, for the question.
That's Harry, not Jeff. I don't know who Jeff is. But yeah, Harry Emden, as some people are correcting me. Yeah, we'll get to the Harry Emden situation later. We're going to watch the CNBC interview with Donald Trump. We'll get to that in the near future, okay? Yes, Harry Enton here. With some troubling numbers for Republicans. Now, people back in the spring were talking about how, and even in more recent months, talking about how, the midterms were looking bad for Democrats. But these numbers are certainly turning for Democrats and against Republicans right now. Pretty big shift here in these polls.
Generic congressional ballot. At this point, Democrats are winning, Republicans are losing, and maybe they're trying to change the lines in order to give themselves a little bit more wiggle room, given what we're seeing, a clear Democratic momentum on the generic congressional ballot.
How does it break down when you look at party ID?
Okay, so this is one metric, right? The generic congressional ballot. How about party identification, right? Because the idea is, if you're a Democrat, you're very likely to vote Democrat. If you're a Republican, you're very likely to vote Republican. Take a look here, the party ID margin, Democrats versus Republicans. Look in Q1 of this year. Quinnipiac, Republicans had a lead of a point. Gallup, it was tight. Look at where we are now in the latest measures. Again, Democratic momentum. This is a 5-point move to the Democrats, according to Quinnipiac. Now they're up by 4 on party ID. How about Gallup? What we see is Democrats ahead by 3 points. So again, what you're seeing is clear movement towards the Democratic Party on a very key metric, because if you're identifying as Democratic, you're far more likely to vote for the Democrat. If you're identifying as Republican, you're far more likely to vote Republican. And I will note, Kate, that this is a change from last year, especially among Gallup, when Republicans held a rare lead going into the 2024 election. And that, of course, foreshadowed Donald Trump winning, foreshadowed Republicans taking the House, taking the Senate. And now, of course, Democrats are ahead here. This is a big uh-oh for Republicans as we are at the midpoint of 2025.
But you're also...
Yes, this is a disturbing trend for Republicans. It would seem that in 6 short months, less than that, really 3 short months. I mean, that was Q1 2025. So, really, the 3 or 4 short months, losing a lot of ground that they had that had basically bolstered the Republicans to victory in the 2024 elections, whether it was the presidential elections or otherwise. Hold on, we can't watch this whole Harry Enton clip, but he's got more data for us. Oh, wait, he goes immediately to it. Never mind.
Immediately, if not sooner.
You see some signs as well, even beyond polling, that you've been looking at, you think could indicate?
Yeah, okay, so this is the polling, right? You're looking at party ID, you're looking at the generic congressional ballot. How about the special elections? Look at this. In the median 2025 special election so far, Democrats in these different districts, get this, they're doing about 13 points better, the median Democrat, than Kamala Harris did in those same districts last year. That is a huge movement. And last year what we saw was, in fact, when you compare the 2024 special election results back to the Joe Biden baseline of 2020, Republicans were actually doing better than they did in 2020 in those. So again, this is clear movement towards the Democrats, and we're seeing it on 3 different metrics, 2 polling and 1 in actual election results.
Very interesting. Good to see you. Thanks for coming back in, Harry.
It's a pretty big shift. Democrats faring better than I would have expected in these polls, as their approval rating is quite low right now, but it would seem that somehow, even through all of that, Republicans are even more unpopular than Democrats at this time. And Harry made a good point about how maybe the writing is on the wall for Republicans, and they've been aware of this shift, and perhaps that's why Donald Trump had last month directed the state of Texas to gerrymander away a number of Democrat seats. Which is really an insane plan from Donald Trump. I mean, the fact that Texas Republicans are going along with it is maybe not shocking, but it's just fucking pathetic. They know full well that this is not the time that you do redistricting, but they are going right ahead with it regardless, because that's what Donald Trump told them to do.
Awful, awful, awful. Weak.
Because they are pathetic sycophants. Here to lick Donald Trump's little boots clean. All right. Now let's stay on the topic of gerrymandering, redistricting. Oh shit, before we do that, I gotta say, shout out to Mish for a sweet, sweet super chat, breaking the ice on the chat goal, the content goal, immediately getting us to 2 of 10. Fuck ice. Happy Friday, GSL and chatters.
Aww.
Thank you, Mish. That is lovely. It's lovely, it's generous, and it's much appreciated. Really is. All right. Now, I don't think we've ever gone to this channel, like, ever. But, you know, I figured we would discuss just the concept of gerrymandering. Something that I think is ridiculous, probably shouldn't exist. Let's go to the map men. The men of maps.
Can we do an episode about politics? No! Alright, what if it's about politics in a foreign country?
Oh, that sounds fun.
Great! Welcome to Map Men. We're the men, here's the map.
Map men, map men, map men.
This is a map of the 435 districts that the USA is split into for the purposes of voting for members of Congress, the powerful people who pick the policies the president can pass.
Because elections have to be fair, it's important that the map is fair. That's why every 10 years the boundaries get redrawn to make sure every district always contains, as closely as possible, the same number of people, about 700,000.
Which means that this map is actually a very handy way of glancing at population density across the United States.
For example, sparsely populated Wyoming has just 1 district and just 1 representative.
Hello.
And densely populated New York has 26.
Hello. That makes sense, but if you zoom in, some of it doesn't make sense. Lots of districts have very suspicious looking shapes. Buh?
Guh?
Fnr?
Do districts really have to be so fnr just to get the populations equal?
One would think
There's something
no.
more sinister going on. And to find out what it is, we have to go back to 1812.
Where are we?
We're still in England, but it's 1812.
Shouldn't we be in Boston?
The story starts in Boston, in the office of the governor of Massachusetts, Elbridge Gerry.
With a G.
With a G. There was an election coming up, and it looked like Gerry was about to lose his job. But his advisors came up with a bill that could practically guarantee a victory for their party without having to win any extra votes. All they had to do was change the map.
But how does changing the map change the results?
That's what Elbridge Gerry said.
How does changing the map change the results?
Allow us to demonstrate with the use of state-of-the-art graphics.
Let's say there's a hypothetical rectangular state with two parties, the Chocolate Raisin Party and the Smarty Party.
The Smarty Party is more popular, obviously.
A fair result that you'd expect is 3 Smarty districts and 2 Chocolate Raisin districts.
But that makes
what
sense.
happens if someone from the Smarty Party is in charge of drawing the map? They can make it so that Smarties control every district. Smarty indeed.
But more simply, watch what happens if someone from the Chocolate Raisin Party is in charge of drawing the map. They can mathematically make 3 Chocolate Raisin districts and just 2 Smarty, even though there are more Smarties.
Disgusting frivolous things. But Massachusetts wasn't a perfect rectangle with voters arranged into unrealistically neat rows.
Wyoming is.
In order to achieve their desired results on a real map of thousands of human voters, Gerry's team would have to draw their boundaries using 2 techniques: packing and cracking.
Cracking is when you break up a community of opposition voters and dissolve them into surrounding districts, making their votes powerless.
A bit like giving all your dinner guests a tiny bit of vodka in every part of the meal spread across the evening, so everyone gets very, very slightly, barely detectably drunk.
And packing is when you do the opposite, and pack as many opposition supporters as possible into just one district, making their votes wasted.
A bit like giving all of your vodka to just one of your dinner guests, keeping everyone else completely sober except Uncle Steve.
Once the concept was finally explained to Elbridge Gerry, he said he didn't like it and thought it was
highly disagreeable.
It is highly
signed the bill
disagreeable.
anyway like a coward, and history was made.
Awful.
Gerry's team looked at the map.
Weak.
It does seem highly disagreeable and anti-democratic, if you ask me. This shouldn't be allowed, right? Like, it just doesn't. It's just wrong. Everything about it is anti-democratic.
Their supporters lived, and after a heavy night of packing and cracking, this is what they came up with, including this improbably bendy, sort of lizard-shaped district.
The new map caused quite a stir and caught the attention of political cartoonist Elkanah Tisdale and his editor Nathan Hale at the Boston Gazette. Hey, have you seen Governor Gerry's new district map?
Yeah, looks like a salamander.
Ha, you mean a Gerrymander? That's how the process of manipulating maps for political gain became known as gerrymandering. And then everyone started pronouncing it wrong.
Which is how it became known as gerrymandering, which was good news for Gerry, who'd probably be delighted that his name hasn't technically gone down in history for this bad thing.
Which brings us back to the present day.
Anyway, in a proper democracy, such obvious cheating would have been instantly spotted and nipped in the bud. But due to America's quirky,
stunningly undemocratic
system where it's politicians themselves who draw their own district maps, gerrymandering very much continues to this day. And it's more sophisticated, high-tech and openly brazen than ever before or anywhere else in the world, and can be seen in swing states all across America.
A shower head, a car with wings, one of those old-fashioned hand drill things,
a dinosaur, a watering can, the shape on the flag of the Isle of Man,
a metal detector, a bale of hay, a knight sitting on his horse the wrong way,
a rabbit in a hat and a bobbit and a spoon, Super Soaker Seahorse Cameroon, a plume
That
of
genuinely
steam from a
looks
mug of
like
tea.
Cameroon. Like, that is disturbing. Who intentionally did this? Because this looks. I mean, this is so close to being the country of Cameroon. It is insane. This is in Virginia, I think.
a plume of steam from a mug of tea,
Donald Duck being kicked by Goofy,
a carpet stain from a naughty pup,
a mouse leaning over with a big thumbs up,
snake, dog, bat, dog, snake, duck, snake.
We'll be right back after the break.
Hello, is this the travel agents?
Yes, we are still a...
Okay. Now, these two crazy Brits do have some idea on maybe what we could do instead of, you know, what we've been doing this whole time. Where did they get into that? I'm trying to remember. Yes. I do believe this might be the solution. Because I think it would illustrate just how insane our system of districting, or gerrymandering, as they've called it, is.
It's easy for us as outsiders, living in a country whose democracy is practically perfect in every way, to tell Americans how they should run theirs.
Good one.
So, just in time for the next round of redistricting in 2031, here are Mapman's top tips for how the USA can fix gerrymandering. 1. Instead of giving districts boring numbers, make legislators give them actual names. The longer the name, the harder the shape will be to justify.
Okay, wait, hold on.
The longer the name, the harder the shape will be to justify.
Yeah, this is absolutely what we should be doing with the naming of districts, especially considering everything. This is ridiculous.
This is ridiculous!
The Texas district of most of East San Antonio, apart from Terrell Hills, and about half of Austin, 100 miles away. First off, how do you have a district that's 100 miles long? Who made this ridiculous fucking map? Seriously, I am genuinely asking, who is the psychopath that drew this thing?
Come on!
And we should. I mean, sure, it takes longer to say than Texas 35, but it is much more illustrative of what Texas 35 represents. I think this is a good solution. We just start naming the districts after what they actually encompass. All right. Now that was from a year ago, before any of this gerrymandering fight began in the United States this year. Let's go now to Too Long Didn't Read News Global from yesterday and talk about what's going on with this gerrymandering battle of the decade.
Last week, Texas Republicans unveiled a new gerrymandered congressional map that would boost the party's chances at next year's midterm elections. A move encouraged by President Trump, who faces the prospect of the Democrats retaking control of the House of Representatives. This has sparked a major political battle. Dozens of Democratic lawmakers have fled Texas in an attempt to prevent the adoption of the new maps, and Democrat-led states like California have threatened to redraw their own congressional boundaries to negate any Republican gains in Texas. So in this video, we're going to explain Trump's push to gerrymander the 2026 midterms, the Democrats' plans to try and out-gerrymander him, and why it's so important.
Wait, does he go straight into an ad? I think he does. Go into ad read? No? Okay, never mind.
Have you ever wondered how much money TLDR makes each year? Or
oh, they do go into... It's not an ad read, though. It's a self-ad read. Whatever.
Funding our journalism? Well, we think transparency is super important. So we answer both questions in our recent video. It's linked in the description. To get things started, it's worth explaining how redrawing congressional boundaries, a process called redistricting, usually works. It normally happens once every 10 years, as states redraw their congressional maps using fresh census data to account for population changes. The last round was carried out back in 2021 to 2022 using 2020 census data. So, in theory, the next round isn't due for at least half a decade. The process varies state by state, but in most, it's the state legislature with primary control, meaning that the party in control of that state shortly after the census wields considerable control over the drawing of the map. For those who don't know, gerrymandering refers to the manipulation of constituency boundaries to favour one party or group over another. It's how you end up with bizarrely shaped districts like this in Illinois, a pretty heavily gerrymandered state favouring the Democrats, or big Democrat voting cities like Nashville, with no dedicated representative because it's been carved up and split between several wider Republican-held districts. So, last week, Republican lawmakers in Texas unveiled their new draft congressional map that gives Republicans the chance to pick up 5 additional US House seats. Currently, Republicans make up 25 of the 38-strong delegation that Texas sends to the US House, while Democrats...
Look at this freaking thing that pops up here. Where is it? Yeah, look, just pay attention to this area up here. I mean, there's plenty of areas to look at. I just want just real quick.
Texas unveiled their new draft congressional map that
I mean, sure, all of the blue has gone down here. But do you notice this gangly looking fucking thing that extends across like a third of the state? Texas 32, I guess, is what that would be. This is fucking ridiculous.
Last week, Republican lawmakers in Texas unveiled their new draft congressional map that gives Republicans the chance to pick up 5 additional US House seats. Currently, Republicans make...
By the way, I love this. I love this over here. What is this over here? I'm trying to remember. Is that... Hold on. Sorry, I don't know my Texas geography is super good. What city is that? What city is that? El Paso. So I love how El Paso is like cordoned off into this tiny, tiny district, and then District 23 is just massive. It takes up like a fifth of the state of Texas. I'll bet you there's more people in this tiny blue spot than this entire area. I can almost guarantee it.
The chance to pick up 5 additional US House seats. Currently, Republicans make up 25 of the 38-strong delegation that Texas sends to the US House, while Democrats make up the other 13. Under the new proposed map, Republicans would be favoured in 30 congressional districts, and Democrats in just 8. This mid-decade accelerated redistricting is pretty extraordinary, and Governor Greg Abbott sought to justify the move by citing a letter from Trump's Justice Department, which claimed that several Texas districts were unconstitutionally racially gerrymandered.
Oh, really?
Trump, however, claimed that Republicans are entitled to 5 more seats, and is not really spinning this as...
The Trump DOJ is concerned about racial gerrymandering. If they're concerned about racial gerrymandering, are they at all concerned about the fact that half a dozen people of color would lose their districts, essentially, including all the underlying voters in those districts? I mean, is that a problem, or no? It's not clear.
Anything other than a political play.
On Texas, how many more seats do you want the Republicans to draw?
5.
And then what if California, New York, Illinois, and other blue states decide to do this?
Yeah, well, that's okay too, but 5. I think we get 5. And there could be some other states. We're going to get another 3 or 4 or 5 in addition. Texas would be the biggest one, and
So
that'll be 5.
are you calling then for a complete redrawing of the congressional map ahead of next year?
Just a very simple redrawing. We pick up 5 seats.
Now, 5 additional seats might not sound like much, but every seat really counts. Democrats only need to net 3 seats to retake the House. Plus, other Republican-controlled states like Missouri are also under pressure from Trump to redraw their districts, so the number could really add up. Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis has floated a mid-decade redistricting, and Ohio Republicans are eyeing additional seats as part of a legally mandated redistricting. Again, it's worth noting that, yes, both parties do gerrymander, but doing so outside the normal 10-year cycle, and seemingly at the explicit instruction of the president to boost his midterm chances, is not the normal state of affairs.
No kidding.
Trump has good...
No kidding. It's not the normal state of affairs for the president to attempt to rig elections mid-decade? Weird. But he is right. He is right about that. It's incredibly unusual, and some people would suggest that this plan is illegal. But Republicans are going right ahead with it.
Mapped by the state legislature, more than 50 Democratic lawmakers fled Texas to deny their Republican counterparts a quorum, i.e. the minimum number of lawmakers needed to conduct business. Many have headed to deep blue states like Illinois, where Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker said he would do everything he can to protect every single one of them. Texas's Republican Governor Abbott accused the fleeing Democrats of a dereliction of duty for also holding up progress on other legislation like flood relief, and said that he had ordered state troopers to locate, arrest, and return to the House chamber any absent members.
What does Texas want to do exactly? And also, it's kind of fascinating. Like, I mean, if FEMA wasn't defunded right now, the federal government could handle most of the cleanup for the flood relief stuff. But the fact is You know, if Republicans in Texas care so much about the voters, maybe they should stop trying to disenfranchise them. That's a good idea. That's just my idea.
Also threatening bribery charges against them in connection to donations they were allegedly receiving to help offset the $500 daily fines they face. The walkout can delay, but probably won't prevent the adoption of the new map. History shows that previous walkouts to break quorum have had mixed results. For example, Democratic lawmakers left Texas in 2021 to protest Republican efforts to overhaul voting rules. But after nearly 5 weeks, several lawmakers returned home, quorum was reached, and the bill passed. If the new Texan map does get approved, the redistricting battle will escalate into a truly national one. Democrat-controlled states, most notably California and New York, have threatened to respond to Texas's Republican gerrymandering with their own reciprocal mid-decade gerrymandering. California Governor Gavin Newsom has set out a plan that would see the state's Democrat-dominated legislature draw up new congressional boundaries targeting 5 Republican incumbents, with the new map likely being put to voters in a referendum in November. Now, some Democrats, particularly in states like California, have increasingly embraced redistricting by independent commissions as a fairer, less partisan approach than line drawing by politicians. So a mid-decade political redistricting really does not align with what some Democrats have previously championed. Nevertheless...
Yeah, but it doesn't matter what you previously championed when you're living in a fucking nonsense reality. And, you know, there's nothing that's forcing Democrats to use independent commissions in their states. They can choose to change how they draw lines in their states. That's basically where it's at right now. You know, we got plenty of time to do this thing. It could easily be done. And if Republicans are going to play this game, we got to fight fire with fire. I mean, that's really the only option in this moment. You cannot sit back and say, we're going to respect the rules while you guys run roughshod over them. Can't do it. Can't do it. All right. Of course, we've been talking about ICE all week, all year. And they continue to do terrible things to people in this country from one coast to the next. Let's go to Los Angeles. KTLA 5 from 20 hours ago. Pregnant woman who is U.S. citizen speaks out after being detained by ICE in L.A.
This is ridiculous!
The latest on ongoing immigration raids. A pregnant U.S. citizen is angry after she and her mother were pulled out of a car and handcuffed near MacArthur Park yesterday.
No kidding. You should be angry, sir. Like, the way he's reading this off right now, like, this is a travesty. Okay, like, the fact that this news anchor isn't like tearing down the entire studio right now is pissing me off a little bit. Like, dude, that could be you right now. I know you don't see yourself in her because you're a white guy, but that could be you.
After she and her mother were pulled out of a car and handcuffed near MacArthur Park yesterday, Sabrina Medina is free tonight, though her mother is still being detained. This is not the first time Medina has been targeted by ICE agents.
Back in June, Homeland Security staged a highly publicized raid at her home as agents searched for her husband. KTLA 5's Mary Beth McDade spoke to Medina and is live with her story. Hi, MB.
Hello there, Court. Yes, Sabrina says that the feds told her they were arresting her for an outstanding warrant from a shoplifting charge some 12 years ago. She says she didn't know she had a warrant, and she believes that they're really harassing her to try to find her husband.
What's your name?
Hey, record!
What is it?
My name is Sabrina Medina.
Sabrina Medina. What's your name?
Elizabeth Medina. They're checking me.
Yeah. Police investigation.
I'm an American citizen. Sabrina Medina and her mother Elizabeth were detained on Wednesday afternoon in the Westlake district by federal agents. Sabrina, who is 7 months pregnant and a mother of 4, says she was taken to the hospital because she was sick. She took to TikTok to explain.
I was throwing up, holding myself while they were speeding up so fast.
all my clothes got thrown up.
She claims agents told her they would release her if she told them where her husband was.
They brought me a lady that works for kidnapping and homicide and all that. I'm like, what are you doing here? She was like, I'm here to encourage you to listen to him because there's several departments looking for your husband.
I just want you to remember that detail as well, real quick. There is this is, I mean, I don't know exactly what department they're with, but some member of Los Angeles law enforcement involved in kidnapping and homicide is working in tandem with ICE.
Illegal. And she's like, and this is outrageous. She's like, it's already been so much that he's not even caught already, and we need to get him. Turn him in, and we'll release you. And I was like, I don't know where he's at.
You may recall back in June, agents raided her Huntington Park home looking for her husband, who
they've already picked this woman up before. They've already been to her home. And the fact that they have fucking zero justification to do what they've just fucking done. Okay? Like, just keep that in mind right now. They have no justification for this. They're already fully aware that this woman is an American citizen. And then they would just pick her up. This is fucking unacceptable. There needs to be accountability. I don't even care what it looks like at this point. Like, this is fucking unacceptable. American citizen, pregnant woman getting picked up. They were already aware of who she is. And then they picked her up they unlawfully picked her up. ICE has absolutely no authority to grab American citizens and question them for any fucking reason. I don't care what it's about. It does not matter. They do not have the authority to do so. And yet they are exercising their impunity on every American, it would seem. Like, they basically, they seem to have the go-ahead from the Trump administration to just break whatever laws they want to. Doesn't matter. Due process. Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. It's out of fucking control. This shit is out of fucking control. They are targeting this woman. They targeted her intentionally. A woman who is pregnant. I hope she sues the shit out of them.
DHS says is undocumented and has a criminal history, including drug trafficking and assault. The raid was a highly publicized immigration operation with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem in attendance. Meantime, Sabrina later found out she had been released from federal custody from a nurse at the hospital.
She was like, I got news for you, Sabrina. And I was like, what? She's like, you're not detained no more. They're gone. She's like, this was so sketchy. She's like, it looks weird. They were trying to do some sketchy thing, And I was like, thank you.
It's just insane. It's just insane. I mean, I'm honest. I'm genuinely fucking disturbed by this story. I already watched it once before, and I'm still fucking so fucking livid over this. This could happen to anybody in chat. This could happen to anybody in this country. She is an American citizen, a pregnant woman. She was yelling, "I'm an American." They still picked her up. They still held her unlawfully. And where is the fucking justice? Where is the goddamn accountability for all of this fucking shit? Doesn't exist. Doesn't seem to exist right now. And if the law is being, usurped by the government, then do citizens have to follow the law? I mean, this is a question that I keep asking myself right now. But at what point, you have a federal government that is now taken control of the courts and is sending masked armed agents to break the law and violate the rights of people. At what point do American citizens just have no longer have the responsibility to follow the law? I mean, the federal government's not following the law, right? So why is the onus on the American people to continue following the law if this is what it's going to be? I'm just asking. I am at a loss right now because I don't have an answer to that. And I really do feel like that answer, we need to come to that answer pretty quickly here. Because we can't just sit around. I'm not going to, like, with fascism, you know, around us on all sides, how long can we abide? All right, let's go across the country. Like I said, coast to coast. Let's go to New York. Eyewitness News, ABC 7 from 23 hours ago. Family distraught after volunteer firefighter was detained by ICE while leaving his home.
New video tonight of ICE agents swooping into a neighborhood in Westchester County and detaining a husband and father as he left the house for work. He's a volunteer firefighter and has lived in the community for decades. Tonight, Eyewitness News reporter Safan Kim with his family's fight to get him back.
The tears rolling down Rosa Chague's face, bursting through the floodgate that is now her broken heart. Since she was 15 years old in Ecuador, she and her husband were inseparable until ICE agents detained him last week as he left his house in Portchester, headed to work. With his hands cuffed behind his back, 43-year-old Milton Guamarigua can be seen yelling his wife's name, but Rosa never heard his cries. No idea at the time what was happening.
Horrible.
Guamarigua works as a marble stone installer and is a volunteer firefighter in Portchester. The father of 3 volunteers because he is undocumented, so he can't be paid. But his family says he serves his community because he wants to be more. He was recently trying to go back to college to get a degree in IT.
Wow. Volunteer firefighter. Even though he can't get paid. Continues to volunteer with the fire department. Oh gosh. Wow. Sounds like a real criminal.
Sister, who's 8, she asked for my father every single night, and we lied to her and told her that he's on vacation or like a work trip, and for that reason he's not able to come home.
Jocelyn admits her father crossed the border illegally when he was 15 years old, but she says in the almost 30 years since he's been here, he has never gotten into any trouble. She says he is not a violent criminal. We reached out to DHS but have not heard back. His family says he is currently being held at Calhoun County Correctional Center in Michigan. They say he was in the process of applying for his citizenship, and they hope he'll be allowed instead to complete that process and be released.
Honestly, it's hard not to break down because I know my mom's already struggling a lot, and she has my 2 younger siblings that are both still in school, and we're just trying to honestly figure out how we can make everything work until my dad comes out, and hopefully.
This is horrible. I mean, they are breaking up families for no good reason. They've run out of criminals, and now they're just picking up grandmas and volunteer firefighters and pregnant women. Just for funsies, I guess. What a waste of U.S. tax dollars. We could have paid for, like, a pretty decent chunk of Medicare for all with the $200 billion being given over to these fucking fascists. Certainly could have at least kept Medicaid funded this year and next year. Instead, no, we're taking away money for healthcare and giving it to the Gestapo to run roughshod over the rights of American citizens and of people in this country, regardless of their status. It's terrible. All right, let's get into let's move on from the immigration stories to economics. I'm trying to make the US half literally one half today because we got a lot of other shit to talk about that we didn't talk about because we didn't have full streams We did not complete the chat goal yesterday, so I've got a bunch of stuff from the Thursday's stream still left over, as well as Wednesday's stream too. I think got a lot to cover, but thankfully it's the weekending report, so I have a good excuse. Speaking of the goal, we are still at 2 of 10 with almost exactly 2 hours to go on the goal. All right, let's talk about the tariffs. Now, of course, this week was Re-Liberation Week. All the tariffs have been coming.
Let's talk just a little bit about inflation. I mean, I've heard
as of, I think, technically Wednesday. Was it Wednesday or Thursday? I can't remember. It was Wednesday or Thursday. That was the official re-beginning of Re-Liberation. I am already feeling incredibly liberated. But yeah, we're about to be even more liberated thanks to Trump's trade war, which is back on Will in Detroit, contributing to the galactic goal. We're now at 3 of 10. Galactic Tariff, fuck ICE, free Palestine. 3 fantastic messages in one super chat. Impressive. Thank you, Will.
Let's talk just a little bit about inflation. I mean, I've heard you explain that we are starting to see some inflation as a function of the tariffs, but because people saw this coming, there was inventories that were built up. There was a big expenditure, and that takes a while to work its way through the system, almost like a snake eating a rat, as it were. But once that passes, which we are sort of on the verge of that, we're going to start to see increasing inflation in the coming months. And that's regardless of what happens on August 1st.
Yes. So let me just try and create a little bit of structure for the audience so that I know not everyone wants to think like they're in an Econ 101 class, but that's how I teach. So when import taxes go up, one of 3 things has to happen. Actually, one of 4 things. So either the foreign countries reduce the price they send stuff to the United States. That's what Trump bet would happen. And to be absolutely clear about that, that has not happened. Import prices are literally unchanged. So we've had roughly a 10% tariff in place since April. If Trump were right, import prices would have fallen 10%. If you look at import prices excluding oil, because oil's not tariffed, they're exactly flat. So foreign countries are wearing none of it. So that then means the only 2 other places the tax goes, and it has to be paid by someone, right? So they're going to be paid by, let's say Best Buy imports a washing machine from Korea. It's either going to be paid by Best Buy, or Best Buy is going to jack up their prices, in which case it's paid by you. At this point, we're not seeing a lot of movement in consumer prices. We're seeing a little bit, but not a lot. So what that tells us is that Best Buy is bearing it. Now, just to be crystal clear about that, Best Buy is an American company. So the costs are being borne by Americans. They're being paid for by yours and my 401k rather than at the grocery store, at the checkout. Now, why is it that that's happening? That's a fairly standard short-run thing, which is whenever your costs go up and down a lot, businesses try and keep their prices pretty stable. And so it's only when they're confident that prices are up and they're going to stay high that they'll go ahead and pass on the price rises. So one that says don't expect Best Buy to continue to be happy about lower profits. And we saw earnings reports from General Motors and other big companies saying their profitability is down. But the other part of this is actually what you said, which is the Trump tariffs went on in April and everyone's like, well, why aren't we seeing it in prices yet? Well, they didn't apply to the goods that were already on boats. And it takes a month for a new good to get on the boat and get to the United States. So that brings us to May. Then it has to get off the boat and through customs. That's a couple of weeks. And then it has to get on the truck and into the storeroom. That's another couple of weeks. And then once those goods get to the storeroom, it turns out the storeroom's pretty crowded right now because a lot of companies knew tariffs were coming, so they stocked up. So these goods are only just getting to the shelves now, but the most recent price data we have is from last month. And so that's the very simple logic of why no one should ever have expected an effect on prices right now. The other part of this is people will say, hey, for instance, they'll say to me, Justin, you've been screaming tariffs are inflationary this whole time, but we haven't seen an inflationary breakout. And part of the answer is Trump hasn't imposed most of the tariffs. Most of them are off until August 1st. It's no surprise that in June and July, we're not seeing the effects of August 1st tariffs yet. And so if he does go this next step, for sure and for certain, this will continue to raise prices. And then you'll ask me the question when, and the answer is by the end of the year, but not straight away.
So what happens when prices go up and...
Yeah. I think fortunately and also unfortunately, for separate reasons, that has not happened yet. Fortunately, because that means that American consumers are still, not paying extravagantly higher prices than they were earlier this year. Unfortunately, because that means that those people, Americans, don't actually think that the tariffs are going to be inflationary. And it's also giving the Trump administration ammo to say, look, the tariffs aren't inflationary, even though mathematically speaking, tariffs are inflationary. There's just no other way there is no world in which tariffs are not inflationary. At least certainly in the one that we live in right now. It's just impossible for them not to be. Especially considering that we just don't have the manufacturing apparatus in this country to even kind of offset those prices, right? And especially considering how we do economics, the fact is, these massive companies, Best Buy, Apple, Ford, GM, Tesla, whomever, none of these guys want to cut their profits. Are you kidding me? just so that people can pay less money for their products? I mean, what? I'm sorry. I've never heard that from a CEO before on a conference call. Actually, investors, we are sick of making money. We'd like to return some of that money to the people.
Immediately, if not sooner.
Never happened. It's never happened in the history of economics.
We've been talking about around the holidays, it's going to be a really major problem with some of the trade.
Wow, that's an incredibly harsh message about Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar is a pretentious twit who will inevitably sheep-herd his listeners back to the Democratic Party despite anything that party does. Sheepherd. Wow. Fascinating take. I gotta say, I think I've seen you say stuff like this before, Earl of Laurel, and I think you've heard me say this. I disagree with the premise that you're running on, right? Mostly because I don't think that you personally have a viable alternative to the Democratic Party right now. And don't get me wrong, I think the Democratic Party has a million flaws, okay? And a lot needs to be done, and maybe we do need a third party. But until that third party exists in a way in which that it is actually a viable alternative to the Republicans and the Democrats, then I don't know what we're talking about. I just don't understand what your point is. Are you saying that this is better than what we would have gotten from Kamala? Right now, we're living in a better timeline than the one where we actually elected a Democrat to the presidency, and actually we would be in worse condition right now? I mean, that's basically what I feel like you're saying right now. Right, because it's a binary choice, right? When it comes to a general election, in the primaries you have options, right? But really, once it comes to the general, I mean, what were you? Jill Stein? Oh, Jill Stein's gonna save us? Where is Jill Stein right now? I haven't heard a fucking word from Jill Stein from the last 8 months. Where is Jill? And longer than that, Jill disappeared during the general. She was like, fuck it, I'm not gonna win. I literally have heard dick from Jill Stein. And if that's, it's the only other alternative that I hear from people these days, unless you've got a better one. I mean, I'm all ears over here. But, it's just, it's math. It's math. It's not a fucking art project. It's not some sort of, philosophical, sort of, what do you call it? It's not theoretical. right? Like the elections aren't theoretical. They're it's not sort of thought experiment, right? Like elections have consequences, and you have to pick someone, and you in that estimation of who you pick, you have to make a consideration of who you think is going to be better or worse, right? So, I mean, unless you're saying that actually you're glad Trump's in office, which, I mean, feel free to go ahead and say that. It would make things make a lot more sense to me, honestly, because I just don't know what I just wish I knew what the alternative was to what you're saying. Because I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wind up probably doing the same thing that you're accusing Sam Cedar of doing, like, in the future. Like, because, I mean, I'm still holding out hope that democratic socialists take over the Democratic Party, or that an actual viable third party actually pops up in the next year and a half, next 4 years, depending on what timelines we're working off of. But I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss for what you're trying to get at right now. Seems like you're just criticizing Sam Cedar for some strange, unclear reason.
Wars with China and cheaper toys and things like that. That's where things could be felt. What happens if prices go up and Jerome Powell remains firm at the Fed with not lowering interest rates in response to that? Some of the turbulence you're seeing in the market that you've described has been when he's been like openly flirting with firing Jerome Powell, but he's largely been prevented from doing that. But in 2026, he'll be able to replace him legally. So, like, how does the Fed play into all of this right now?
There's just so much to talk about. I apologize, and then I keep rambling in my responses. So, Emma, I'm going to say the same thing I said to Sam a moment ago. Let me pick up some important parts, and the parts you want me to hit on, bring me back to. Okay.
Sure.
Let's talk about Powell, Trump, and the Fed, because to many audiences, Federal Reserve independence sounds like an obscure concept and maybe something we don't even like. Here's the very simple logic of it. We could either have presidents make decisions about monetary policy, raising and lowering interest rates, or have independent nerds do it. I think a standard democratic theory view would say, well, presidents are elected and nerds aren't, so maybe we should let presidents do it. The problem is presidents can't be trusted. Presidents make choices in presidents' own political interests. And so Trump has already said very clearly what he wants to do is take an economy and run it into overdrive, which at one level would be good. We'd make more stuff, but at another level would spark inflation almost straight away. And so this is the same logic that says when I go to a party with a six-pack in my hand, I hand someone else my car keys because I know I'm going to get drunk enough, I'm going to make a really bad decision. And so what I want is someone else to make the decision for me. That's what central bank independence is. It's politicians understanding that politicians can't be trusted. And for the past 50 years, politicians have understood that. And as a result, we've had reasonably low inflation. Now, if there were ever a politician who should not be handed the car keys right now, it's probably the guy in the White House who's already said that what he wants to do is reduce interest rates to a degree that simply makes no sense whatsoever. That's the underlying story. Let me come back and actually tell you what I think this looks like in real life, because we've actually seen this movie before. In Turkey, a populist strongman, Erdogan, came to power. That populist strongman, like our populist strongman, really loves low interest rates. Ours because he's a real estate developer, Erdogan because he doesn't understand economics. Arguably, they both have that in common. Erdogan got frustrated with the Turkish central bank. And ultimately, what he did was, it was somewhat independent before. He appointed one of his loyalists, a yes man. That yes man said, all right, boss, you want low interest rates, even though inflation is not only high, but rising. And he kept interest rates low. And inflation went up, 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 up. And it kept interest rates low, and they kept rising until inflation hit 86%. Now, you and I don't even know what it feels like to live in a world of 86%, but basically it causes 86% inflation, but basically it causes enormous dysfunction.
Yeah. And the kind of inflation that Justin Wolfers here is talking about is year over year inflation. So, this August, something cost you $100. By this time next year, it'd be $186. The year after that, it would go all the way up to, what is that? 250, a little higher than that, but it would just continue like, and that is, I mean, Turkey is not the only country to have done this either. But this is terrible economic policy, right? And you know, we could get into in depth on whether or not, you know, the current system of economics is reasonable, or because I know we have a lot of, you may know we have a lot of criticisms of capitalism around here, but the fact is I mean, as the world order stands, you know, you want independent central banks, right? Having some sort of politically captured central bank is going to lead to terrible things within your country. It's almost a given. Because they're not actually, I mean, but think about it. It's got nothing to do with economics. Donald Trump doesn't understand the economics of what he's asking for, but he's got a political desire for this, as well as a personal one that involves his own properties and all these other things. I mean, because Donald Trump, billionaires like Donald Trump have loans out all over the place, right? Donald Trump, Elon Musk, even though they're billionaires, it's much easier for them to take loans out, right, against assets or whatever else, and then pay for their next big purchase with the bank's money, and then just pay the bank back, you know, a month, you know, piecemeal fashion, rather than shelling out $100 million at once or whatever else. So he's got his own personal interest wrapped up in this, and all of his billionaire buddies, you know. So lower interest rates are good for people like him who have, you know, billions of dollars potentially on credit right now. And but it's going to make everything wildly more expensive for everyone else who doesn't have billions of dollars.
Throughout society, let alone financial markets. You know, throughout society, you're running home to spend your money while it's still worth something. Financial markets cause a much broader meltdown. So we know what happens when a populist strongman who loves low interest rates appoints a loyalist. Things turn out very badly. And you might say, well, Justin, we're not Turkey. And the thing is, Turkey used to think Turkey wasn't Turkey. So I think this is, in fact, an utterly genuine risk.
Yeah. Honestly, I think Turkey might be too tame an example. I think, you know, all right, I'm kidding. I was going to say that, you know, by this time, you know, next year we're going to be Nigeria. Okay, that's a joke. We're not going to be Nigeria. But Nigeria's currency is practically worthless. Hey, it'd at least help with exports. Jesus Christ. Okay. So yeah, you know, and they go on into more depth as to how these things sort of coalesce around the tariffs. And the fact is that, you know, you cannot lower interest rates if you're going to start a fucking trade war and you're going to start taxing everything that comes into this country and expect to have all the goods that you had in the country yesterday. Right? It's just, you can't. You cannot. You cannot expect everything to stay the same, you know, and to have this. It's going to be a much worse environment for everyone. And, you know, lowering interest rates at this time would be just catastrophic, honestly. All right, we're doing back-to-back majority reports today. Let's go from talking tariffs and fiscal policy talk about statistics and how upset Donald Trump was over the weekend that the Bureau of Labor and Statistics released numbers that were not, you know, advantageous to him.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
The jobs numbers came out. I know you discussed this on Friday.
Yep. And the revisions to the May and June numbers, which might have even been more dramatic news.
Well,
fake stats.
It gives a picture of what is happening. And you should understand this is happening as supposedly, we have now net migration. I don't know if that's exactly the case, but there are reports to that effect because we're deporting so many people. And it's not just deporting the people, but people are afraid to go to work. Even people who ostensibly would not be deported are afraid to show up at work. And what happens if you've got a 25-person construction crew and 10 or 15 people aren't showing up, your job site shuts down. And nobody's looking to, they're looking to hire people. But I don't know where all of these Americans are hiding, that they're not coming out and taking all these jobs.
They're living off of Medicaid. Trips to the hospital.
They're just down in their basement,
they're getting rich off of going to the hospital, says Matt. I love that one from Matt Leck there. They're all getting exorbitantly wealthy over that Medicaid, over being able to access healthcare. They're now, they just don't have to go do anything.
They're just down in their basement, playing video games. But we are watching the economy contract. Job loss is often a leading indicator of this. And we're going to start feeling the implications of tariffs. We have some good examples of some clips of people who are adamant. I make my product in the U.S. I'm pro-tariff, and are finding out that you really need to be more specific with what you're pro. You might want to be pro-specific tariffs, but not just tariffs, wielded around like a baseball bat. We'll get to that. But the way that the BLS works is you have two different surveys that they use to estimate and put out an estimated picture of jobs losses and gains. There's the household survey, and then there's a second one that's more business oriented in data. Household survey is literally just like, hey, how many people are working in your household?
Right.
Did anybody lose their job? It's literally, the way we know a survey. The other is a combination of both interviews with employers, with data that's filed, and none of that data comes in just a 30-day period. That's a quick snapshot. That's why you get revisions. We've had multiple eras of massive revisions. 2009, where things changed so dramatically because of the financial crisis. During COVID, we saw this. And the shock of the tariffs.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Sam brought up two very good examples, 2009 financial crisis and COVID, which also led to, it was really a financial crisis as well during COVID for really the global economy. And because of drastic and sudden changes to the landscape of the economy, revisions, were much bigger than expected by some at the time. So that's exactly what's happening here, and Donald Trump just doesn't understand any of this stuff. And he thinks it's all political. Anything that's negative, anything that's critical of him or somehow contradicts his understanding of reality is somehow political and aimed at him, rather than just being facts, rather than just being fucking, reality and numbers. Somehow this is a blatant attack on Donald Trump.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
And what it did in terms of freezing businesses, I think, is what we're starting to see. Not necessarily the tariffs themselves, but just simply like, we don't know what's going on here. I'm not hiring anybody.
Liberation.
And they were hoping that Trump would chicken out. So basically they've just been kind of bracing themselves, but they can't offset the pain that they're experiencing anymore, basically, or delay.
So here is Trump speaking as to why he fired the chief of the BLS, and listen carefully to how he thinks information has been manipulated in the past.
Mr. President, on the monthly jobs report, going forward, why should anyone trust the numbers?
Well, that's the big thing. You're right. No, you're right. Why should anybody trust numbers? You go back to election day, Look what happened 2 or 3 days before.
He doesn't say the numbers, he just says, why should anyone trust numbers? Why should anybody trust numbers exactly? They're very inaccurate numbers. What's up with that?
With massive, wonderful job numbers, trying to get him elected or her elected, trying to get whoever the hell was running. Because you go back, and they came out with numbers that were very favorable to Kamala, okay? To trying to get him elected, to trying to get her elected. And then on the 15th of November or thereabouts, they had an 800,000 or 900,000 overstatement reduction right after the election. It didn't work because you know who won, John? I won.
Okay, so he's being asked, everybody's expecting you're going to hire a crony who's just going to lie for you. How can we trust these numbers? And he goes back and he goes, "You remember, right before the election, they came."
You know, I'm going to try that strategy. I'm going to go down to the bank and ask them how much money I have in there. And when they say, "Sir, you don't have an account here," I'm going to say, "You can't trust numbers, okay? I have billions of dollars at this bank, and I demand a withdrawal."
And he goes, "You remember, right before the election, they came out with great jobs numbers, and then right after they came out with revisions that said they were bad, except for this sundowning old man."
Who was I running against?
Whatever I was running against. This is a clip of that same sundowning man. When was this from?
November 1st. So this is after, these are when the October numbers were released prior to the election. I
was just going to ask, because it's a clip of him campaigning.
Yeah.
Why would he be campaigning after the election?
It would be weird. It would be weird.
Oh, so it was before the election.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hear what he says, whether we can trust these numbers.
4 days before the election, they have among the worst numbers ever in history. Nobody's ever heard. They did 12,000 jobs. Normally you're 250.
It's almost like Donald Trump can't remember things that happened 6 months ago. It's very weird. Very weird. Almost like he's having some sort of a senior moment here.
Ever heard? They did 12,000 jobs. Normally you're 250, 300,000, 400,000. They did 12. Think of it, 12,000 jobs.
You know, I'm not a psychiatrist or a doctor, but it is troubling to me that we have a narcissistic, deluded megalomaniac who seems to be sundowning, like Emma has been suggesting, seems to be going through sort of the throes of, you know, a man in his 80s might be heading towards dementia. And I think what troubles me most about that is that Donald Trump, I mean, like, he already had very little grasp on reality. You take away the rest of his faculties, and he's just dangerous. He's just like, literally, oh my God. It's just, like, I'm trying to think of a good analogy for this, but it is like just putting a madman in charge.
And it's hundreds of thousands of jobs, less than it should be, think. Because they're pathetic. They don't know anything. These people don't know anything. She's a very low IQ person. We don't need a low IQ individual. We just had that for 4 years. We don't need this.
He's talking about the jobs report that came out before the election and said that there was only 12,000 jobs that were added at that time.
Right.
I do like the benchmark of you need 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 is a normal month for job gains.
Yeah, it's weird because I guess we haven't had any normal job gains during this presidency of Donald Trump's. If we go by his own figures, it's hard to hold Donald Trump to anything that he's ever said or done, or to get his fucking baby brain supporters to remember anything he's ever done and hold him to account for them, or expect any consistency from the man. All right, hold on, I gotta readjust my microphone. That's better. That's a better spot for me. You should see this. Like, I mean, you can see it, but like, I'm just the way I am. I have too many things in front of me. I need to improve my stream space, which is really sort of the living room of the space station. I live to stream, okay, chat? Okay, so yeah, Donald Trump lashing out against the Bureau of Labor Statistics because he doesn't like numbers. Speaking of numbers, let's go to the business channel. CNBC, 3 days ago. Trump went on to the, what's it called? What's the morning show? Something Shark? Whatever it's called over here at CNBC's early morning show with Joe Kiernan and crew. And of course, Joe Kiernan is one of Donald Trump's most dedicated sycophants over at CNBC, which says a lot considering how many of these money people love Donald Trump. Hey, yeah, here we are.
And now to the guests that we've been talking about all morning. President Donald Trump. Mr. President, welcome. Thanks for calling in. Wish you could be here in person, but we'll do this.
Good morning, Joe.
We've been talking about the BLS and the employment numbers all morning long. Sometimes I know you get a chance to tune in. I want to bring up a chart. I hope you can see it, or else I'll describe it to you. This is the response rate over the last 10, 12 years for the BLS, the household survey. It's dropped from 90% or so on time down to 60 and sometimes even lower. It's arguably the most important number we get about the economy. Yesterday, we had Wharton Professor Jeremy Siegel on. Just bear with me, Mr. President, and listen to this. I know you're familiar with Wharton, but unsolicited, this is what Jeremy Siegel said yesterday about the numbers.
I'm not going to let the BLS off the hook. I mean, you talk about how to fix it.
How do you fix it?
Make these questionnaires mandatory and give them a time limit.
That's what Jeremy Wharton wants from the Wharton School of Business, Donald Trump's former alma mater. Jeremy wants to make the Bureau of Labor and Statistics surveys mandatory. I guess at the we watched part of this yesterday, and my question is, how does Jeremy envision it being mandatory exactly? You're gonna have stormtroopers show up with a questionnaire in hand, blasters in the other, and say, if you do not fill this questionnaire out, you will die. Straight to jail.
Illegal.
Like, really? Like that? That's the plan, Jeremy? You fucking twit. What an idiotic plan. What a fucking... We will shut your business down if you don't answer our questionnaire. By the way, PB with a sweet, sweet super sticker. Moodang. A beautiful, gorgeous hippo doing something of a celebratory spin in her sweet, sweet office chair. Thank you, PB. That gets us to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of 10. We're halfway there, people. And we are halfway on the goal, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we are literally an hour and a half left on the 3-hour goal. Thank you, PB, for getting us to that. My gosh. Very, very generous. I do love these Moodang super stickers. And yes, that's right. All hippos are Moodang. Something we've established here on this channel long, long ago. Crumpled Zinc gifting a sweet, sweet galactic membership. Who got it? Papa Dukes 22. Thank you, Crumpled Zinc. Very, very generous donation. Getting us one step closer to getting a 19th emote, of which we are getting closer and closer by the day, it would seem. Okay, hold on. We're not going to watch this whole thing. It's like a 40-minute long fucking interview. It's insane.
Maybe a bridge too far, according to most people.
Well, I think when somebody says the commissioner is not involved, I don't want to get into any arguments with anybody. Why should I?
I don't want to get into any arguments. Exactly, says Joe. Exactly, says Joe. That's fascinating. Exactly? I mean, what? Does Joe Kiernan know who he's talking to? I mean, Donald Trump doesn't want to get into an argument with anybody? Since when? This is a new Donald Trump that I've never met before. Who is this man? This man who doesn't want to get into arguments with people. I mean, Donald Trump will argue with literally a rock, you know, for being the wrong color or something. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The fact that Joe just accepts this, like, yeah, of course you don't want to get into arguments. Yeah, right, okay.
Nobody was involved, that it wasn't political. Give me a break. Look, before the election, I had this massive outflow of beauty for Biden.
Massive outflow of beauty.
And for Biden.
A massive outflow of beauty. I've never thought of beauty as being something that flows in and out of things. It's a weird concept that I'm not familiar with. It's all very strange to me. If you want my opinion, the beauty is flowing like you've never seen it before, from the like it's from the Mount Olympus, coming down, cascading like a waterfall.
Low interest rate person, sir. You could hardly hear him talking over the desk.
Is Warsh in
somebody that worked for me was a big fan of his. Not a fan of his. He hardly knew him, but he wanted him so badly. I did somebody a favor. I put him in there. No, he's too late. He's too late. That name will stick to him.
Can you handicap it at all? Who you're, or you won't know? When will you know? And when will you announce it?
I think the two Kevins are doing well, and I have two other people that are doing well. You know, look, it's in the end there are numerous people that are qualified. Everyone on your phone right now, in terms of at your beautiful studio, would be very qualified, in my opinion. You guys are better than most of the people that do it for a living. But I watched a lot, actually. No, I think that it'll be one of four people.
Are the other
I'm going to
two
make the decision soon. And don't forget, we have somebody that left early, which was a pleasant surprise. We have a woman that left early. She announced 2 days ago that she's leaving.
By the way, it was announced earlier. I don't know if I have it here in front of me, but I heard, I can't remember this guy's name now, but I looked him up a little bit. Donald Trump floated a name for the vacant seat at the Fed, and this guy seems like just a complete Trump sycophant. What was this guy's name? Ziegler? I cannot remember this fucking guy's name. Oh, I lost the article. I don't know where it is. Point is Donald Trump nominated basically a Trump sycophant, or is planning to nominate a full-on Trump sycophant to the Federal Reserve Board.
I'm going to be announcing that very shortly, too. That will be, most likely it'll be for the 4 months, for the short period of time, but a lot of people say that when you do that, why don't you just pick the person who's going to head up the Fed? That's a possibility, too.
President Trump, you said there are four names. There are two other names that have been mentioned in the press. One is Governor Waller. The other is the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. Are those the four that you're considering?
Well, I love Scott, but he wants to stay where he is. I'll take him off because I asked him just last night, is this something you want? Nope, I want to stay where I am. He actually said, I want to work with you. It's such an honor. I said, that's very nice. I appreciate that. But, no, Scott wants to do what he's doing. He's doing a great job, and he wants to do what he's doing. So I just take him off. He does not want it. He likes being Treasury Secretary. He's doing a really good job. We made the greatest trade deals in the history of our country.
Greatest trade deals
We had to because we were being ripped off by the world. It's not like we had a choice. If we would have gotten these trade deals, if you would have had...
I love how CNBC, the business channel, isn't even kind of pushing back on the economics of what Donald Trump is talking about. The very best trade deals anybody's heard of, one where Americans have to pay more stuff for things coming from other countries. That is great. Everybody loves it. Aside from literally anybody who understands economics. The fact is, the trade deals aren't even fucking deals. Donald Trump basically did deals with himself. Like, because remember, we now have on every single country on the planet higher tariffs than existed before Donald Trump took office. And not by no way is it the fault of anyone but Donald Trump. He's the one who initially started the trade war, started to levy tariffs against everybody. And now at the end of the trade deal portion of all of this, we still have higher tariffs than we did a fucking year ago. Okay, that's not a deal. He's ruining the American economy unilaterally. One man, solo, just destroying it. Just completely ruining it. It is terrible. Okay, we cannot listen to this whole goddamn thing. We can't do it.
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
Let's go to the very end.
In many ways, they're very, very special people. Okay, go ahead.
No. Okay. So, here we go. So you did get the highest number of votes in Texas, so that's true. But when you were talking about,
then you don't have to say anything more, Joe.
I got to say this.
No, don't say anything more. Don't qualify it by saying.
No, I'm not.
Don't qualify it, Joe.
Number of votes.
You did.
Wait, I got to go back slightly further. I got to go slightly back.
But, Mr. President, I just want to hear you clearly. You're saying the people who have been here for years and who have been even paying taxes, you're going to look at them very differently, and maybe they belong here in the workforce?
I want to work with them, and in some cases, we're sending them back to their country with a pass back in legally. And
we're sending them back to their country with a free pass back into the United States. It's a very strange thing that Donald Trump just said.
we're doing things that are very difficult to do and very complex, but it works really well. We're sending them back, and then they're schooling, they're learning, they're coming in legally. We have a lot of that going on, but we're taking care of our farmers. We can't let our farmers not have anybody, these people, you can't replace them very easily. People that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They're just not doing that work. And they've tried, we've tried, everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. I said, what happens if they get it to a farmer the other day? What happens if they get a bad back? He said, they don't get a bad back, sir, because if they get a bad back, they die. I said, that's interesting, isn't it?
That's interesting.
These are very,
That's interesting, is what Donald Trump said. This guy is just a fucking... He's like a racist infant, In
many ways, they're very, very special people. Okay, go ahead.
In many ways, very special.
Okay, so, here we go. So you did get the highest number of votes in Texas, so that's true. But when you were talking about...
then you don't have to say anything more, Joe.
Don't say it, Joe.
No, don't say anything.
Don't say it, Joe.
No, I'm not
I got the highest number of votes.
You did.
In the history
I'm moving
of
on.
Texas.
I'm moving on to your claim that revision helped Biden hurt you for the 800,000. It was in August. There was still plenty of time for voters to see that those weren't
after
real
the
jobs.
election in November. I believe it was in November something. There was a massive revision downward on
the
jobs.
first one, the
Check it out, Joe.
800,000
You'll
or
find I'm right
900,000,
again.
I think, was in August, and then later it came out in March of 2025.
I love how Joe Kiernan is sort of running the gambit here. He's like, he loves Donald Trump. Like, he wishes that he could be Trump, or at least be Donald Trump's boyfriend. But he knows that everybody knows that he has to correct Donald Trump because Donald Trump is lying about the numbers. And so Joe's like, okay, this is my job. I gotta try and correct my favorite person on the planet. How can I do that without offending him? And he's just sort of like threading the needle on this thing.
it went to 598, not 818. But the original
Well,
one.
listen, 598, but there were other revisions downward from prior to the election because the numbers
From prior.
were rigged, okay? And as you said,
Other
numbers,
revisions
look,
from
you
prior.
take a look-
From prior to the election. What does that mean? Why? I feel like I'm losing my sanity having to listen to Donald Trump every goddamn day.
After the election, how many revisions downward there were? But let's get back to Texas because you said you were going to say something else. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, a record that they say won't be beaten unless I run again.
Are you going to run again? The
No,
Constitution
probably not.
No, probably not.
Probably.
Probably.
And
I don't know.
and you're not going to fire Jay Powell. We'll go all talk about all the stuff that.
Hey, Becky, I'd like to run. I have the best poll numbers I've ever had. You know why?
Jesus
Because
Christ.
people love the tariffs, and they
That's
love
that's
the
with
trade deal, and they
Republicans.
love that countries. And they love that foreign countries aren't ripping us off anymore.
overall
For
poll
years,
numbers,
they ripped us off, friend
no,
and
no.
foe. And the
Overall
friend
poll
was
numbers,
worse.
you don't. Overall
What?
poll numbers, you don't have the best you ever had in overall poll numbers. You do. I cited one of those.
I have the best. I have the best poll
among
numbers I've ever
Republicans.
had.
Best-
I have poll numbers where I'm 71%. I have the best poll
71%.
numbers. Look,
Those are among Republicans.
No, Among Republicans, I'm at 94 and 95%. No, I'm talking about generally. I have the. Let me put it this way: there was a gentleman on Harry Emden yesterday on CNN, and he went crazy over how well Trump was doing. Now, you don't put that on because I think CBS is a shade. Actually, CNN's a shade better than NBC. I think NBC is probably the worst of them all. But if you check CNN tomorrow, watch Harry Emden.
Watch Harry
You'll see about the
Emden.
numbers, but that's okay. We have to defend ourselves, Joe.
I know, but there are other. They can cite. There's your haters cite polls that have you down in the 30s, Mr. President. And,
Yeah, but they're fake polls, Joe. I had a lot of fake polls. You also have me in the 70s. I have fake polls. Fox
Republicans.
gives me terrible polls all the time. You know, they do nothing, but I've never had a good poll with Fox. And then I win an election, and I go through the roof. Because, look, I won every swing state. Did I not? I won every swing state.
Look at Joe Kiernan. He's like bouncing up and down in his chair. He has no idea what to do. He's been trying to correct the president, but he does not want to be rude at all. He's like, well, the numbers, sir. What about the actual numbers? Can't trust the numbers, Joe. They're actually much higher than your stupid brain actually knows. 90,000% approval.
Proof. Because, look, I won every swing state. Did I not? I won every swing state. Andrew, I won the popular vote by millions of votes. Even though they tried like hell to cheat, I won by millions of votes. I won the counties. And all of the counties, I won 7,000. No, I won 2,750 to 502. And I won the election in a landslide. And obviously, that's only, we're only 6 months in. But my poll numbers are better now, much better than during the election. And now part of that is because the Democrat Party is self-destructing. I mean, when you have low IQ people like Crockett, I wonder if she's in a relationship to the late, great Davy Crockett, who was a great gentleman. I wonder if she's
a great gentleman. Davy Crockett could be related to Jasmine Crockett. It's possible. I don't know. I'm not a historical wizard, but it's possible. Maybe Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett had a baby, and that baby is Jasmine Crockett. I don't know. How old are those guys exactly? Oh my fucking god. Jasmine Crockett related to Davy Crockett, of course.
Any relationship to Davy Crockett, the great old Davy Crockett.
Great
you have this woman
Davy
Crockett. She's a very low IQ person.
Jesus
Somebody
Christ.
said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding. The Democrats are lost. They have Trump derangement syndrome so bad that they can't walk, they can't talk, they don't know where they're going. Schumer is finished. Schumer, look, I watched
40%.
him the other day. He's lost all of his confidence.
40% of the country has, so you're never going to get above 60 in any poll, and it's because 40% have TDS, and we know that. Mr. President, we used to do this every Tuesday.
You see what I mean?
Trump Tuesday. Maybe.
Do you see what I mean about Joe? Like, he's trying to say the actual numbers of Trump's approval rating without saying them. And then he's like, oh, but it's because of TDS. Like, he is a big-time Trump lover. Like, full on. He's like, look, sir, I know. Look, TDS, right? Come on.
We can start, this is going to be the start of something again, but we appreciate all your time today and hope to be able to continue this discussion on all these different issues in the not too distant future, if we could.
Joe, could I finish one thing?
Yes.
1 year
You're the
ago,
president.
1 year ago, our country was dead. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world by far. And that was told to me by every leader of NATO, which they do whatever I want. That was told to me by the King of Saudi Arabia, by the leaders of UAE, by the leader of Qatar, by many. We were a dead country 1 year ago. Today we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. And I'm very happy to help.
Mr. President, once again,
We were in a dead country, and now it's great. One of the most insane interviews ever on CNBC or any other network, for that matter. Donald Trump talking about the great Harry Emden. Harry Emden, do you know him? He's great.
Awful.
That
Weak.
Harry Emden is a very smart guy. He knows the numbers. Can't trust the numbers unless it's Harry. And then it's good. Speaking of Harry Emden, Enton, let's go here. Oh shit, what have I done? Jesus Christ. All right, fuck it, we're gonna do it. We're gonna...
Tonight, check CNN. That's a quote from President Trump, who also gave a shout out to a friend of the show while spinning his polling. Listen to this.
Overall poll numbers, you don't have the best you ever had in overall poll numbers. You do. I cited one of those.
I have the best poll numbers I've ever had.
Among
I have poll numbers where I'm 71%. I have the best poll numbers.
Those are among Republicans. You know you've got.
No. Among Republicans, I'm at 94 and 95%. No, I'm talking about generally. I have the. Let me put it this way: there was a gentleman on Harry Emden yesterday on CNN, and he went crazy over how well Trump was doing. Now, you don't put that on because I think CBS is a shade. Actually, CNN's a shade better than NBC. I think NBC is probably the worst of them all. But if you check CNN tomorrow, watch Harry Emden, and you'll see about the numbers. But that's okay. We have to defend ourselves.
All right, we don't have to wait until tomorrow. With us now is Harry Enton.
The great Harry Emden.
You could find Harry Emden. Harry Enton, it's great to see you. What's it feel like?
It could have been far worse. I am thinking of going down to the courthouse in New York when I get back to change my name. That was what some of my friends suggested. I also think it could have been that he could have given me a nickname, right? I could have been Low Energy Harry. But there are good things about this. It gave me an excuse to contact my mother, which I don't do quite nearly enough. And you know what? He recognizes, the President of the United States, that we give him a fair shake on CNN, whether it be Newsnight here or CNC News Central from 7 to 10 a.m. I'm usually on in the 8 o'clock hour.
Which is why if we did give you a nickname, Harry, it would be Sweet Cheeks. We appreciate the plug there for the morning show.
Thank you.
Listen, was the president correct?
Jesus Christ. Sweet Cheeks? That's going too far.
About the polling, though.
No, I don't think the president was correct. I give him a fair shake. I don't give him a positive spin. Look, he is not at the highest point he's ever been. Take a look at his net approval rating, where it is right now. It's negative. He's underwater, right? You compare that to where he was at the beginning of this term. He was 6 points above water. Now he's 9 points below water. Awful. Weak.
There we go, Sweet Cheeks, aka Harry Emden, aka Harry Enton. Correcting the president on his numbers. All right, one more quick clip, and then we're going to go to break, because I just blew through the freaking break. I just want to do these both back to back. From Harry Emden to the late, great Davy Crockett.
David, you said you wanted to see him. There he is. The Napoleon of the West.
Which one? That's Santa Ana.
Yeah.
There you go, a little Davy Crockett action. That yeah, I guess he could be related to Jasmine Crockett. Very perhaps removed. Davy Crockett. The late great Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone, and Jasmine Crockett. Okay. Gotta take a quick break here, people. Do not worry. Do not fret, space fams. We will be right back after these brief space messages. All right. I do hope everybody's been enjoying the stream so far. If you haven't already, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon too, so you can make sure that you don't miss a single episode of this Spacecast. While you're at it, do also consider contributing to the stream, as we are completely funded by individuals such as yourself. A lot of great ways, of course, for you to show your support. YouTube, Super Chats, Super Stickers, memberships, Cash App, and PayPal. If you prefer your money go directly to funding the stream rather than the bottom line of Google. But of course, the best way to get the most space benefits for your Earth dollars is to go on to Patreon and become a Galactic patron. Just 10 cents a day, that's right, $3 a month will get you access to a myriad of space benefits unseen by the rest of the goddamn Milky Way galaxy. Things like an avatar on one of the break screens, like the pool, or you could be sitting poolside with your pal StreamLord taking in the space rays. Get a shout out at the end of the stream, and much, much more. And I'd like to remind everybody that, of course, we still have a goal going in chat. We are at 5.5 of 10. We are slightly over halfway completed with only an hour to go. I do believe that we will be able to complete it, though, so we can get all of the sweet, sweet galactic content this evening. Anyway, chat, enjoy the break. Grab yourselves a drink, maybe a snack. And I will be right back. All right, Space Fams, you know what that sound means. It means it's time for us to get back to the stream immediately, if not sooner.
Immediately, if not sooner.
All right, we left off talking about economics. Now, unfortunately, we're going to continue talking about economics for a little bit. Just a little bit. Now, yesterday, or was it yesterday? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was like early morning yesterday. Donald Trump and I think this guy's from the Federalist Society came out with a bunch of props, bunch of you know, displays, like a couple of kids trying to do a project, like a little like a school project type of deal. You know, you got to present to the class, so you know, you go to FedEx or something and you print out a bunch of graphs you found on Google or that you had your assistant make up on their computador. And then you show everybody just how great the numbers are.
News from some new data that we've been able to put together that no one has ever seen before, and I'll just very quickly go through these. So I was telling the president that he did the right thing in calling for a new head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, because
did
it
he?
shows
Oh, thank
that
God.
over the last 2 years of the Biden administration, the BLS overestimated job creation by 1.5 million jobs. That's a, Mr. President, that's a gigantic error. And I don't know if she's, I'm not
It might
making
not have been an error, that's the bad part. If it was an error, it would be one thing. I don't think it's an error. I think they did it purposely.
Whether that, you may well be right, but even if it wasn't purposefully, it's incompetence.
Right.
Okay, so 1.5 million jobs overestimated. We have access to the, some data that no one else does on what has happened.
Now, what I love about these fake graphs that they're coming out with, I mean, like, this is a 1 year period that they're talking about. They don't compare it to any other years. They're just like, look how many overestimates that happened during the Biden administration, which when you think about it, just, I mean, think about this, okay? Like, Trump is upset that they did revisions during his presidency here, right? But, you got him here holding a large piece of paper that tells us actually it's not political. Actually, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics overestimates job numbers in all presidencies and then fixes them, goes back and revises them. The thing that Donald Trump has a problem with, they did to Biden too. So it's proving the wrong. I feel like they don't realize the point that they're proving. They're actually proving that the Bureau of Labor and Statistics does their job regardless of who is in presidency and will revise those numbers if they have to.
We have access to the some data that no one else does on what is happening.
That's what I love about this next chart, though. They've aggregated a bunch of data that none of us can fact check, and they're going to tell us how good the data is. Oh, I'm excited.
And month by month with median household income. This is based on unpublished Census Bureau data. It will be released sometime in the next 6 months, but we get an advanced look at it. And so I was telling the president in his first 5 months in office.
Yeah, I wonder if this gets revised in the next 6 months. I love this. I love this. I mean, they got to come out. They got to come out with his best number, the best numbers that they can find. I mean, come on. Even if they have to bring out completely unverifiable numbers, and tout those. They will do it.
Would like to meet with me, and I'll do whatever I can to stop the killing. So last month, they lost 14,000 people.
Oh, right. Okay, he goes on and on about Russia. Okay, but anyway, this is a ridiculous fucking meeting. Press conference that was held by Donald Trump, and I keep forgetting what that guy's name is. I think he works for like Heritage Foundation or maybe Federalist Society. I cannot remember, but I also think he's in the Trump administration. I just cannot remember his name. He's been hiding this whole time or whatever. But there we go. Fake numbers, and there are these unverifiable numbers, as well as numbers that prove the wrong point, being touted by Donald Trump and this rando dude.
Kelly O'Donnell is in Washington. Brian Chung is in New York. Brian, we'll start with you.
Okay, what the fuck? Why is the Office screen lagging so bad right now? Usually the Office is not laggy. Why is it acting laggy today? This is idiotic. Whatever. Columbia Rican with a sweet, sweet super chat. Getting us to 6 of 10. Just gonna say what we're all thinking. Duck Frump. Duck Frump indeed. All right, let's go quickly to NBC. Talk about those numbers that were just trotted out by Donald Trump.
Kelly O'Donnell is in Washington. Brian Chung is in New York. Brian, we'll start with you. And this sort of moment in the White House today, in the Oval, with the president, throwing up this chart, you know, describing some of these numbers that we don't have access to. I don't know what we can make of this data, but how should we interpret this? Is this a moment where the president is being trailed now, of course, by the firing of his BLS chief?
Yeah, and kind of an important side note here, too, is that Stephen Moore, the former economic advisor to President Trump, who is now outside of the government, was in the Oval Office presenting this data that he said is not publicly available. So how did he get his hands on it if he isn't working in the government? That is one question. But I think the bigger question here is the alarms over just the presentation of this data, which is basically unfact-checkable by us and our colleagues in the media. And that is because allegedly this is census data, as purported by Stephen Moore, that they have access to, but the rest of the world does not, regarding monthly estimates of net change in real median household income. This is a chart that looked like this. It showed median income rising since January 20th. Of course, the president began his second term, so that is certainly a good narrative for the White House, but a narrative that we are unable to fact-check in the absence of seeing the data. And I want to point out that it's more than just having some government website publishing it. It's about how they calculated this, because you look at something like real median household income. That means you have to adjust for inflation. As a rapper Pusha T once said, then prices ain't real without inflation. But how do they calculate inflation? Is that from PCE or is it from CPI? We can't see the work behind these numbers. That is alarming, especially in the context of the president having just recently fired the head of the Labor Statistics Bureau, Erica McIntyre, for...
Yup, there we go. Laid out very clearly by NBC. The numbers trotted out by the Trump administration were unverifiable, with no understanding on how they were calculated. And, you know, it's not shocking that maybe some of us don't trust numbers, as Donald Trump himself put. How are we supposed to trust numbers? I don't know. How do we trust numbers moving forward? Now that Donald Trump is intending to put sycophants and political appointees rather than, I don't know, competent or meritorious individuals who are perhaps experts in their field, rather than just being, you know, sycophants with fealty to the supreme leader. I mean, if you want the numbers to be correct, you put experts in there. If you want them to make you look good all the time, you put a sycophant in charge. Problem with that is then nobody's getting the right numbers. It's a real problem, if you ask me. I'm going to pretend the stream isn't lagging right now, like it's not bothering me, and just hope that it somehow fixes itself here in the near future. All right, let's get to talking tariffs. CNN from yesterday. Trump's historic tariffs, up to 50%, kick in worldwide.
President Trump's widespread tariffs are now in effect on dozens and dozens of America's trading partners around the world. The new measures amount to a true reshuffling of U.S. trade policy and a major escalation of the president's trade war, and it could ignite the biggest change to the global economy in nearly a century. All of that likely about to impact many things you buy, from computers to clothes, furniture, and toys and beyond. This new round of tariffs kicked in across the globe just after midnight. The president celebrated by posting on social media and posting that billions of dollars in tariffs are now flowing into the United States. So he says, and while it is correct the new tariffs he's already imposed this year have raised more than $100 billion in tax revenue, those tariffs, reminder, are actually paid by the U.S. companies that import the goods that you buy. And a number of those companies include huge companies like Procter & Gamble, Walmart, Hasbro. They're warning, and have been, that price hikes are coming for American consumers. CNN's Matt Egan is tracking
Winter is coming.
And good luck with tracking all of it. Matt, fill us in, break down what has happened as of midnight.
Yeah, Kate, look, we're...
Okay, Jesus Christ. This lag is fucking ridiculous. Okay, I'm gonna try and get us back on track here. Hopefully, we can stop having these lag problems sometime soon. It's very frustrating to me. Prevents me from doing the stream. That is the worst.
President Trump's widespread tariffs are now in effect on dozens and dozens of America's trading partners around the world. The new measures amount to a true reshuffling of U.S. trade policy and a major escalation of the president's trade war, and it could ignite the biggest change to the global economy in nearly a century. All of that likely about to impact many things you buy, from computers to clothes, furniture, and toys and beyond. This new round of tariffs kicked in across the globe just after midnight. The president celebrated by posting on social media and posting that billions of dollars in tariffs are now flowing into the United States. So he says, and while it is correct, the new tariffs he's already imposed this year have raised more than $100 billion in tax revenue. Those tariffs, reminder, are actually paid by the U.S. companies that import the goods that you buy. And a number of those companies include huge companies like Procter & Gamble, Walmart, Hasbro. They're warning, and have been, that price hikes are coming for American consumers. CNN's Matt Egan is tracking all of this for us. And good luck with tracking all of it. Matt, fill us in, break down what has happened as of midnight.
Yeah, Kate, look, we're all living through history right now. These sweeping global tariffs that just kicked in, they represent the biggest change to world trade in nearly a century. They're lifting the U.S. tariff rate to levels that have not been seen since the 1930s during Smoot-Hawley, the infamous tariff hike that made the Great Depression worse. So let me run you through some of the numbers here in this new tariff regime. Talking about a 10% minimum tariff now on nations that the U.S. has a trade surplus with. So 10%, that is the new zero. You can't go lower than that. 15% is the new minimum on countries that the U.S. has a deficit with. Could go higher, but that's the minimum. Now we're talking about 24.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good distinction to make, I think, amidst all of this. But Donald Trump's original goal or claim around the tariffs, I mean, or at least one of his original claims, because his understanding of tariffs has seemingly evolved, changed on multiple occasions. But one of his very early claims was that we have all of these, we have all these trade deficits. All these people are selling us all this stuff that we don't want. And that's why we're spending all this money on it. And so we got to get them to start buying U.S. goods, and so therefore tariffs. But the fact is that even the people who we are selling more to than we are buying, those nations have at least a 10% tariff, if not more. I mean, Brazil has a 50% tariff, and we sell them more stuff than we buy from them.
Countries that have higher tariffs than 15%. Some of them much higher. South Africa, 30%, 35% on Iraq. Look at this, 39% on Switzerland. That was a big surprise the other day when that came out. Myanmar, Laos, Syria, and Brazil, 50%.
And Brazil's a punishment. The U.S. has a surplus with Brazil.
Exactly. Yeah, and that does speak to some of the questions that have been raised about this new tariff regime. Because yes, Brazil is a country the U.S. actually exports more stuff to than we buy from. Now, also not on this list, but India. Just yesterday, the president threatened an additional 25% penalty on India because they're buying oil and gas from Russia. So if that kicks in later this month, that would lift the tariff rate on India, a major trading partner, to 50%. So what gets more expensive because of these tariffs? Well, analysts say there's a number of items that we import, including computers that are very much exposed to these tariffs. Clothing, that's another one. A lot of the clothing obviously comes from Asia. The Yale Budget Lab estimates that these tariffs could increase the cost of clothing by 38% in the short run. Watches, that's something that we get from Switzerland and other nations. Shoes, a lot of shoes are imported. Alcohol as well, furniture and toys. All of these are items that could get more expensive. Now, it's true that the rate of inflation, it has heated up, but it's not going through the roof, right? It is not skyrocketing. And proponents of tariffs, they point to that as evidence that tariffs are not going to cause inflation. But I think what's really important to remember is even though tariffs kicked in overnight, the price hikes, that does not happen immediately. It takes time. Goldman Sachs estimates it could take 8 months from when tariffs kick in until when all of us as consumers actually see it. I think the bottom line here, Kate, is this is all an experiment, right? There really is no historical precedent for what happens to a modern economy just 3 years after an inflation shock when you have historically high tariffs. There's no precedent, but we're about to find out.
President Trump's long promised and threatened tariffs on the world, well, they finally arrived. Effective at midnight, the administration's so-called reciprocal tariffs snapped into effect. Ordering coffee from Brazil? Well, that's going to cost another 50% to bring into the U.S. How about chocolate from Switzerland? That's 39% extra. Those are 2 of the 5 highest rates overall. A total of about 40 countries face a tariff of 15% or higher. If you thought the president was done with tariffs for now, think again.
We'll be putting a tariff on of approximately 100% on chips and semiconductors.
So there we go. And we can expect high tariffs for some period of time, I think. You know, and I've been saying don't bet on the taco trade. The tariffs were going to come. Donald Trump has some sort of genuine obsession with them. And he does not, he's somehow obsessed with them and also doesn't understand how they work, which is a really fucking weird place to be. But that's absolutely where we are right now. We have a man in charge of the entire country who has his hand basically in the entire global economic order and does not know how trade works, does not understand how tariffs work, but they are his favorite trade tool, if you will. And they are back, and they are going to get worse, in my opinion. They're almost definitely going to get worse. Because I don't expect the countries to be, kowtowing to Donald Trump just to get these deals in. There's been a lot of movement happening in the sidelines as this all has been going on. People looking to readjust their trade with other countries, neighbors, and others. You know, China has been, floating a bunch of ideas to Southeastern Asian nations, among others. And, Donald Trump added in this tariff against India earlier, increasing their tariffs because they buy Russian oil. And there's if he exercises this consistently, which, I mean, who's to say whether or not he does such a thing? But if he were to exercise that consistently across the board, you'd be looking at another dozen, maybe even more, 15 plus countries maybe that are buying oil from Russia at this time. And so if, like I said, if Donald Trump is consistent, and that's asking a lot, but if he were to be consistent with this policy of his and go after nations buying oil from China, well, you're going to be in a situation where these tariffs rise even further on a whole host of other countries. Jesus, the stream is completely frozen. What in the hell happened? We were doing so good. Why is this happening? I don't understand. Jesus Christ. I don't know what to do, people. I mean, the stream it was running perfectly fine, and now we are completely frozen. And I have no explanation for why. Doesn't make a ton of sense. But it's making me depressed, because I've got a fuck ton of stuff for us to go through right now, and I would like to get through it. But how am I supposed to do that when the stream's not streaming properly? All right, everybody. I don't know if you heard me. I just realized I was muted. I'm afraid we're going to have to end the stream. I know this is very sad for everybody. Also, thank you to Orb Rumor for the $1 blank super chat. Much appreciated for the galactic diving. But unfortunately, since we're running on 1 frame per minute right now, that is not a sustainable that's not a sustainable frame rate. So I'm going to have to end the stream. I'm going to have to end the stream and restart it. I know it's probably very sad for many people who are hoping to just be able to chill here all night, all day, all morning, wherever you might be. But this is not, it's not tenable. We cannot continue in this fashion. So, hope to see you all soon. Once I think I'm gonna have to do a couple of adjustments and restart the stream after that. Clearly something is wrong.